In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to make a two-dimensional array, and it's going to be a bit of a complicated example. What I'm going to do is make a 2D array in Java, and I'm going to simulate 36,000 rolls of dice. So let's get started here. So let's create a new project. I'm going to call this thing Dice Simulator. All right. Now, before we begin, I'm going to write in a comment just to sort of illustrate what I'm sort of thinking about. So what I'm going to do here is, hold on here, I'm just going to put the comment first. Simulate 36,000 rolls of dice and store into a 2D array. And basically the idea here is my initialized array, what it's going to look like is basically it's going to look like this: 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, like this. And then we're going to have, just going to copy that. I think I'll put one too many here. So my idea here is that this spot here is going to be 1, 1. So if I roll a 1 and a 1, that's going to be how many times I got basically snake eyes. Down here, this is how many times I'm going to get a 12, so 6 and a 6. So that's the way I want to sort of visualize this thing. So as an example, after I roll a 3, 4, the array looks like this. So it'd be the same thing, but instead of being initialized to zeros, I'd have a 1 in there. And where the 1 would be located would be third column, fourth row. This would become a 1. That's my concept here. So, and then, like I said, I can display this in a nice way later on, but that's the idea here. So I'm going to basically generate two integers, add them together, and then make this 2D array increment in a location where those dice would be. So let's get started here. So let's go here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a J option pane for this one. So I'm going to create a variable called myChoice equals a quote quote. So it's just an input variable I'm going to use. Sometimes I use my input or input or whatever you want, but I just called it myChoice. And I'm going to make my 2D array. So it's going to look like this. So int dice square brackets equals new int, and I'm going to put square bracket 6 square bracket 6. So this is just telling Java that I'm making a 6 by 6 array of ints. Okay, now I'm going to create another array here. Okay, so basically what I'm going to say here is when I roll, my rolls are going to look like this: 2, 3, 4, ... up to 12. And if you count how many values this is, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, there's actually 11 possible values. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you actually count that on your fingers, that's 11 different values you could get. So what I want to do is make a dice total array that has 11 values. But the problem is that the lowest number I can get is a 2. So I'm going to actually make a different size one. So I'm going to include 0 and 1 in the dice total array. So I'm going to make an array right now called int dice totals square brackets equals new int square bracket 13. So because arrays start at 0, what I want is an array that basically goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way to 12. The 0 to 1 I'm just going to ignore because I can't get a dice total of 0 and 1. So if I were to generate a 2, I'm going to make my 2D array go up by 1, but I'm also going to make the total go up by 1. So you'll see in my output why I'm using two different arrays. So it's a single array and a double array. Okay, the next thing I need also is going to be random dice 1, or die 1 I should say, and random die 2. Okay, so let's begin here. So first thing I'm going to do is create a menu. And I'm going to use a loop for this. So I'm going to say while my choice dot equals 2. Pardon me. While my choice is not equal to 2. I'm going to use 2 as my exit. So while my choice dot equals to, not equals 2, keep going. And we'll make the question now. My choice equals J option pane dot show input dialog. And it's going to say 1, roll the dice. And then /n to exit program. Now the gesture pane, I have to actually fix the imports here. But actually, even at this stage, I'm going to run it now just to show you how this loop works. The idea here is it's going to keep asking me for my input called my choice. And as long as I don't hit a 2, it should keep asking forever. Once I hit a 2, though, then it's going to break the loop. So it's going to keep going while the my choice is not equal to 2. That's what this means, not. So let's just make sure that the loop actually works the way I want. So obviously rolling the dice does nothing, but as soon as I hit a 2, it should exit. Perfect. That's what I wanted there. Okay, so the loop works. Let's continue. So if the my choice dot equals 1, so if I actually enter the 1, so if I enter like 3, I don't want it to do anything. But if I enter a 1, then what are we going to do here? We're going to roll the dice. Okay. And oops, I forgot a comma on here. Sorry. Just trying to follow my work here. Okay, roll the dice. Okay, first step. Initialize the dice. 2 zeros. Okay, so I'm going to basically take this double array right here called dice, and I'm going to fill it full of zeros. So I'm going to use a double for loop. So int I equals 0, I less than 6, I plus plus. Curly bracket. For int j equals 0, j less than 6, j plus plus. Curly bracket. And I'm going to write dice at location I, j equals 0. So all that's doing is it's just taking this array right now, which is filled with nulls, and just ensuring it's definitely full of zeros no matter what. Okay, it's just basically resetting it. Okay, I'm also going to reset the dice totals right here. So the dice totals right now, it's created this array. It's probably filled with zeros, but I'm going to manually make sure it's reset it to 0. So initialize the dice totals array to zeros. So I can use a for loop again, and I can reuse the I variable, or I can recreate it, I should say. This time it's going to be less than 13, or I can just use I less than dice totals dot length, and then I plus plus. Or you could just put 13, because that's the size we used. We used 13 right here. And then we're just going to set the dice totals at location I equal to 0. So that's it. So those are now reset. Okay, so now we're going to actually start generating our numbers. So generate 36,000 dice rolls and keep track of the values and the sums. Okay, so let's go like this. For int counter equals 0, counter is less than 36,000. That's how many I want to make. Counter plus plus. So that's a loop that will run 36,000 times. Let's generate the first dice. So the first die is going to be random die 1 equals int bracket math.random bracket times 6 plus 1. So now we're just going to add in the second random variable here. So random die2 equals bracket int, and then math.random times 6 plus 1. Okay, so that's basically, your two dice here. So each one is a random number between 1 and 6. Now, the next thing we're going to do after we've got those two numbers generated is we're going to increment the rows location in the 2D array. Now, it's a bit weird. So, for example, if I were to roll a 1 and a 1, so that's like the snake eyes, right? The total is 2, but where is that location in my array? The location of 1, 1 in my array needs to go here. Okay, but the problem is this spot is 0, 0. So I have to actually subtract 1 from each random die in order to get the proper location. Another scenario might be 6, 6, right? If I get a 6 and a 6, where's that going to go? A 6, 6 would be right here. But this is actually location 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5, 5. So if I were to actually try and print out 6, 6 or do anything with 6, 6, it would actually say array index out of bounds exception, because arrays begin at 0, they don't begin at 1. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to increment it, but I have to subtract 1 from the location. So what I'm going to write is this. So dice at location random die 1 minus 1, and location random die 2 minus 1 plus plus. That's the line right there. So it's going to take whatever my two random dice are here. It's going to subtract 1 from the locations, so that's going to give me the proper spot. And then the plus plus just increments that location in the array by 1. So that should do it. I'm also going to increment the dice totals array. So dice totals at location random die 1 plus random die 2 plus plus. This one is different. This one I don't need to subtract 1 because the way I've designed this array. So this array here is of size 13. So it has 0 and 1 at the beginning, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 12. So if I roll double ones, for example, I actually want spot 2 to go up. I want the 2 to go. I don't need to worry about subtracting in this case. So this is going to be fine the way it works. Okay, so this should be good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to display the results in a table using tabs. Now the symbol for tab in Java is /t. Now I'm going to type this in first, but I'm just going to tell you right now, it took me a little bit of time to actually get this to look the way I want. And even when I do it right now, it may not look perfect. So it was a lot of trial and error. So I'll show you what I mean. So system.print, and inside here I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs, die 1, and then a /n for enter. Okay, let's do another one here. System out print 1, 2 tabs, a space, then a 1, a tab, 1, 2, 3, and we put a 2. Okay, and then a tab, 1, 2, 3, and then a 3, a tab, 1, 2, 3, and then a 4, a tab, 1, 2, 3, and then a 5, tab, 1, 2, 3, and then a 6, a /n for enter, then die 2, and then /n again. Okay. So right now I'm just going to show you what that alone looks like. Okay, that's complicated enough, that line right there. So let's see what it looks like. And it may not even look the way I want. Okay. So that's basically what it did right there. So you get a few tabs that come the tab over, and you get die 1, and then you get a couple of tabs, and then a space, and then a 1 here, and then we got some more tabs as well to get these 2s. The 2 looks like it's off a little bit here. I don't know if I have too many spaces or something. Maybe it'll be okay. Maybe I should have done a couple spaces with the 1. Let's see here what it looks like. Again, this is just a trial and error to get it to look proper. Okay, let's try and work with that, see how it goes. Okay, so that's just sort of like the headers of my table almost. Okay, it's not the contents of the table. Now let's worry about the contents. So the contents of the table would be like this. For int row equals 0, row less than 6, row plus plus. And then in the first part, we're going to write this. So system.out.print, and bracket, row plus 1 plus 2 tabs. What this is going to do is it's going to say basically 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way down here, okay? Then we're going to do another for loop. So for int call equals 0, call less than 6, call plus plus. And we're going to print out, so system out print. We're going to print out dice, at location row, bracket call. That's the 2D array. Then we're going to print out a tab. That's just after we print out the data value, so it'll tab over. So as it loops, it'll print out the value, then a tab, the value, then a tab. So it's going to go across and print the numbers. Then after this for loop is finished, right here, I'm just going to print out an enter or a new line. So print /n. That's just because they're going to go across. I need an enter at the end once the row is done. That's all this is going to do. Let's run it and let's pray that it actually looks okay. I may have to play with these tabs to get it to line up right. That's not bad. It's not exactly how I want it lined up, but you at least get the gist of it. I probably could remove some of these spaces to make it look a little bit better, but that's the idea here. So that this line right here, what that's doing is it's actually showing these numbers right here. It's showing the current row plus 1, and it's adding a couple tabs. And then this internal loop here is what's causing this to occur. So it's doing this, and then it's putting the enter at the end of it once that row is done. So you basically get the gist of it. That's exactly how it's supposed to look. Now, if you look, all of these are pretty much evenly balanced, and that's pretty much normal. So because every one of these, the 1 to 6 on the first die and the 1 to 6 on the second die, this is uniform. It's just as likely to get a 1-1 as it is to get a 6-6. Now, the sums, though, is different. Some things like the sum of 7, for example, that is a lot more common than, say, the sum of 2 and the sum of 12. So let's print out the number of times each total was rolled. This is where it'll get kind of interesting. So system out println number of rolls with the sum, and we're going to use a for loop. Count equals, I'm going to start the count loop at 2 instead, because I don't need to display the sum of 0 and the sum of 1, because they will have no values. Okay. Count less than dice totals dot length, count plus plus, and inside my loop, I want it to say this. So system out println count plus a tab plus the dice totals at count. Okay. So if it's like row number 2, it should say 2, then a tab, and then dice totals at location 2. So how many times 2 came up. Let's run it and see if it looks the way we want. Okay, roll the dice. And we'll exit. Just stretch this out so you can see it a bit better. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So this is the outcome of my 2D array, and this is the outcome of my 1D array. So you can see, for example, that the 7 occurred the most, and you get that when you add up the 1 and the 6, 2, 5, etc., right? The 2 and the 12 occurred the least because that's this number and this number. And yeah, it worked exactly like one. So this is the results of rolling 36 dice using Java. So the program's a bit complicated. I realize that, but I'm hoping at least you learned a little bit about 2D arrays, how to initialize them, how to create them, how to work with them, and how to display them. To display 2D arrays, you almost always need a double for loop like this. This is the easiest way of doing it. The one-dimensional array, you need just a single for loop, and it looks like this. And again, just a little bit of practice and examples using 2D arrays and 1D array, and hopefully you learned something in this video.